And welcome back. We spent a lot of time on this program talking about Alzheimer's, a horrible disease, but rarely from such a personal point of view. A woman who has lived it firsthand and seen the way it can devastate a life.
Yeah, Stacie Ruth Stolting's two grandparents had Alzheimer's, and she wrote this book while she was still a teenager, Still Holding Hands, a moving American love story full of trials, Alzheimer's, and victory through faith that will inspire your life. Stacie, it's been a few years since you wrote this book, but you're in high demand at Alzheimer's conferences, and caregivers come up to you and cry on your shoulder.
That's right.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about what's happened since you wrote this book.
Well, thanks for asking. Well, a lot of things have happened, and it's hard to limit it all, but mainly we've been able to reach out and equip families and churches to reach out to families facing Alzheimer's disease. And as you said, I was 15 when I wrote the book, and unfortunately the relevance is still there. I mean, we still face Alzheimer's. One of two after the age of 85 has Alzheimer's disease.
Wow.
So, and considering the fact that our baby boomers are aging and our overall populace is aging, it's quite a concern. And you know, a lot of people would like to forget Alzheimer's, and I know that sounds like a pun and all that, but it's true. I mean, a lot of people, they joke about it, they try to ignore it, or they're really, really scared that they're going to get it. My approach is do your best, trust God for the rest, because there are many things we can do. We can exercise. My two favorite hobbies are cooking nutritionally and exercising. So I'm thankful for that. That's easy for me, but for some people it's not. Find something that you enjoy. And also, another thing that I like to remind people is to have an active prayer life, whether you're coping with the disease currently or whether you're just scared of getting the disease. I advise prayer.
Or if you're a caregiver, because that's got to be just the toughest job.
It is. And as in Still Holding Hands, I shared about my grandma who took care of my Papa Ray. And they were just an amazing Christian couple. They were just so loving towards each other and towards other people. And I just felt like just a tremendous example was being displayed before my eyes of true love and true faith in action. By the way, Still Holding Hands is written kind of like The Notebook. It's kind of like a Christian version of The Notebook, and I had not read The Notebook, okay? So it wasn't like I was copying it at all. I just felt really inspired to write it. And so anyway, yeah, it depicts what it's like to go through Alzheimer's from a caregiver's perspective, from a granddaughter's perspective, and it grants a lot of insight into the disease, what it's like to live day by day, and how to cope.
Well, you know, part of that love was expressed so lovingly by your grandmother in her devotion to your grandfather.
Yes.
Yeah, but you do make the point in the book that you've got to take care of yourself. In fact, you wrote three words that really kind of sum it up. Think of yourself. It's so easy to devote yourself to the one you love.
True.
You know, and your grandmother ran herself ragged, and you said, you know, you've got to take care of yourself because you're no good to Ray if you're run down yourself.
That's right. And I speak to all caregivers out there. In order to care for others, you have to take care of yourself. Because when you take care of yourself, you're taking care of your loved one. It's that simple. Otherwise, if you go down, they go down.
Yeah.
One thing I like to a bit more of a caregiver's perspective than even when I wrote the book, because I wound up in my college-age years being a caregiver, part-time caregiver to my grandma, who had been the caregiver of my grandpa. And during that time of about 9 months, it was an intense, beautiful, and trying, yes. It was a bittersweet experience in many ways. But, you know, I remember getting home after appearing on a very large station, or network, rather, and I thought, as I was going down the escalator, and I knew I was going to be returning to give care to my grandma, along with my wonderful mother and sister, I thought, you know, it is so rewarding. It is so rewarding.
It's also very hurtful, and you mentioned that in the book. You know, sometimes Alzheimer's patients certainly don't mean to hurt your feelings, but you're allowed to have your feelings hurt. When
Right.
when your grandfather forgot certain things that were important to you, or when he was less than kind to your grandmother, you said, those are hurtful times, and you have to deal with that as well, because
Right.
sometimes things just don't go well at all.
Oh no, there are terrible days. I mean, where your heart feels broken and when your cheeks are hot from just all the emotion within. And I know what you're talking about there. And when I said about rewarding, it's because of my personal faith.
Sure.
That's what I was trying to allude to, how meaningful the work is as a caregiver. But it's also very draining. And that's why it's so important to keep your communication lines open. That's one tip. There's a whole section in the back of the revised version of Still Holding Hands that includes tips on how to take care of yourself and how to take care of your
It's really a
careger.
great resource.
Well,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah.
I hope and
Yeah.
pray it's used.
It can be so frightening, though. Tell about that one incident where your grandfather, now he's really in an advanced stage of
Yes,
Alzheimer's now,
yes.
and he became violent. And this
Yes.
is one of the tragic aspects of Alzheimer's. You can be docile in one second and fly into a rage the next. And she was trying to help your grandfather, and suddenly he just flew into a rage and stormed out of the house and stormed around the house. And thankfully, a neighbor stopped by to help get him under control. But that must have been frightening for your grandmother. But to realize this is part of the reality of Alzheimer's.
Well, first of all, thank you for reading it.
Yeah.
I
No,
can tell you read
No,
it.
it's such a painful book to read, but told in such a loving way that
Thank
it's
you.
easy to assuage your almost anger at what happens at Alzheimer's when you
Right.
realize with love you can even overcome that.
Yes, yes. But I just had to thank you, first of all, for reading it,
That was a
because
wonderful
that was
book.
a very good depiction of one of the scenarios described. Thank you. Yes, the violence, it becomes almost a point where there's a climax that occurs where you're going to either place the person or enter a decline of health for both individuals. So it's important to realize when that climax has occurred. And for Grandma, I give actually a one-woman play on this, and in that I depict one of the times when he runs away. And it's so common for people to be in denial. I know a lot of people in the audience right now. I know you probably are thinking, "Yeah, I'm in that situation," or "Yeah, my mom's in that situation," whatever.
Larry, his mother died of Alzheimer's. I have an aunt suffering from it now. My mother is her caregiver. I think every family, if they're not touched by it by some relative, knows somebody who is.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes. There's so many people currently right now that are suffering from it, and that's why it's so important to be educated. Educate yourself. We have links on our website also that might be helpful. We're also going to be, I think by tomorrow there should be some more links available that are especially helpful in the caring process. But I have the top 12 links on brightlightministry.com, and that includes things ranging from medical sites to caregiving equipping sites that are really important.
When you do a presentation like a speech about Alzheimer's, what do people come up and ask you or tell you afterward?
Wow, they thank me. They thank me for my honesty, and for basically having a heart and empathy, because it is a heart-wrenching disease. 3 out of 4 of my grandparents suffered with Alzheimer's or related dementia. But there is hope, and never give up hope. I firmly believe that through my faith in Jesus, that things are going to work out well in the end. And I encourage everyone to take care of caregivers. Reach out. Simply bring in, if you have to, a fast food meal. Do something. Call them. You can also bring your pet for a visit if you get permission first. And your pet is well behaved.
We've had other caregivers come on the air, and say, don't just offer help, insist on helping. It's easy to say,
Yes.
hey, if you need something, call me, and then people
Yes.
don't call.
Yeah.
Rather than do that, just go over and I'm here. What can I do for you today?
That's right.
Or go ahead and go get groceries for somebody, or give them a break.
That's right. You're so right. And
Yeah.
and caregivers, you need to ask as well. I know it's hard to do that because you can do the best job for your loved one and all that, but ask.
Just even an hour break where someone sits with the patient would
Yes.
make a difference. The caregiver could go get a bath or a manicure or just have some downtime.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
invaluable, even if they just take a nap.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I encourage that, especially getting in touch with them. Find a way to have a consistent, touch base time. Because if you let them go, then they're going to continue to let go. And so you have to be aggressive.
And yet, this is the reality, and it's so painful. You're right. How could it be? Just a few months before, he had been so able to enjoy the grandkids at Christmas. Now, they couldn't even lift his fog. No more weeks existed, which Ray merely occasionally wandered. Now he roamed every night. He was becoming more violent. And that tragically is almost the end result of every Alzheimer's patient.
That's
And you
true.
have to be prepared for it, and you have to work to help that caregiver who suffers along with the person who has Alzheimer's.
Well, and we just have 1 minute left, but one of the hardest decisions for families is whether they should put the Alzheimer's patient in a community. What do you
Right.
advise people about that?
Wow, I advise doing all kinds of things, including, the links I offer, do very, very thorough research on the care centers in your area. Visit the centers at awkward times, not
Surprise 'em.
Yeah, exactly. And also ask around, and of course, I always say pray, and then also, just be sure that it's the best thing for that person and for you.
Well, and you're right. When Hilda finally came to that decision, it was certainly a grueling decision. But you say it's so hard, but it's so right. At that point, it was just the right thing to do because for everybody's health and sanity, and for Ray's well-being.
Yes.
He needed the care.
Yes.
Well, Stacie Ruth Stolting, thank you so much for
Thank
being with us and sharing your
you.
story. The
Thank
book is
you.
still holding hands, and if you have any kind of caregiving situation, Alzheimer's or dementia in your family, you will benefit greatly from this book. We're going to talk to Stacie's sister when we come back.
It's 20 minutes after the hour on Mornings.